What's up with y'all, man? We got another video. We got chilling scares, 28 minutes of purely horrific information, man.
Roller coaster
Get into it,
decapitation.
bro.
Six Flags is an amusement park company that operates.
I used to go to Six Flags all the time, bro. When I was younger, I used to go in New Jersey. It was Joker and Superman. Those were the two most known ones, bro. And I never got on them shit.
Many theme and water parks around the U.S.
Only thing I really used to get on at Six Flags was like the little teacup, or not teacups, but teacups and like the little spinny ones, the ones that be spinning in circles like that. They're like, I think, like little bears that kind of says a bear.
Is home to one of these locations and receives millions of visitors each year. What many of these visitors don't realize, however, is that one of the rides has led to two different people losing their lives in the most brutal way possible. The more notable of these incidents happened on the 28th of June 2008. The day started off completely normal, but that changed at 1:50 p.m. when park authorities discovered the remains of a young man under the Batman-themed ride. These remains belong.
I looked, thought it was Batman too. But I just thought it was. I just remember Superman and Joker. I don't know if it is Superman. I know it's Joker, but I know it might not be Superman. It might just be Batman.
To 17-year-old Isaiah Ferguson.
He was
visiting the park with his family and a group from his local church. According to witnesses, Isaiah and another boy ignored the many danger signs under the coaster and entered the restricted zone by scaling the two 6-foot-high fences surrounding it. It's possible they thought they'd be safe as long as they were under the rails and not climbing on anything, which would have been the case for most normal coasters. Unfortunately for them, the Batman-themed ride featured an inverted design, where the seats were suspended beneath the track rather than mounted on a car above it. The ride was also running at the time, and it did not end well for Isaiah. I saw a man run from the building towards the fence. He jumped the fence and ran under the ride. He was hit by the ride or a person on the ride and fell forward. He didn't get up. You heard a big pop and he just laid there. The ride was going at over 50 miles per hour, or roughly 80 kilometers per hour, when the leg of one of the passengers made contact with Isaiah's head, decapitating him instantly. The rider somehow was fortunately unharmed. As it turned out, this was not the first incident involving the Batman ride. 6 years earlier, on May 26, 2002, a 58-year-old park employee lost his life in the exact same way when he was struck by the leg of a 14-year-old girl. Again, the rider was able to recover without any permanent injuries. A later investigation also cleared the park of any negligence. Inspectors found plenty of warnings and physical barriers in place to prevent anyone from simply wandering into the danger zone. As for why Isaiah chose to ignore those warnings and climb the fence, that remains unclear to this day. Police received some conflicting reports, with some claiming that he was trying to retrieve a hat he had lost on the ride earlier, while others said he was attempting to touch.
That's why I say, if you go on a roller coaster or you go on these type of rides, don't wear no hats, no jewelry. If you don't wear shoes, I mean, that's up to you. I don't know. I personally would wear shoes, but you know, if you go on a high ride, whatever, wear no shoes. And just try not to wear anything that'll fall off
the coaster or grab a rider's foot as a dare, but none of these reports were ever confirmed. And since the park wasn't found,
it's just crazy how just anything could be a dare, bro. Like going under a whole roller coaster and grabbing someone's leg is a dare.
Guilty of any wrongdoing, the Batman ride was allowed to reopen just a few days after the incident, and it's still operational to this day. Though now with a lot more warning signs and barbed wire over the fences to prevent any more similar tragedies.
Damn.
Murder of Oki Al-Qaid. On May 24, 2004,
well, what's the all these being like around my birthday though? May 26, May 24?
Employees at an engineering consulting firm in Denver, Colorado noticed that the project manager, 53-year-old Oki Al-Qaid, was absent. This was completely out of character for Al, as he rarely ever took a day off. Even when he did, he made sure to inform his colleagues beforehand to avoid any issues. So people from the office tried calling him on the phone, but despite multiple attempts, Al didn't answer. Worried for his safety, people at the office contacted his emergency contact, which belonged to his sister. Unfortunately, the sister lived too far away to check on Al herself, so she dialed 911 and requested a welfare check instead, desperately hoping that her brother was okay. She knew something was wrong, since it wasn't like her brother to ghost everyone out of nowhere, but nothing could have prepared her for the gruesome fate Al had met in his own home just days earlier. When officers arrived at the house in Aurora, Colorado, they discovered that it was spotless, almost as if someone had recently given it a thorough cleaning, but there were no signs of Al himself. That is, until they went down to the basement and discovered one of the most horrific sights ever documented. The basement contained the bloody remains of Oki Al-Kite with numerous nightmarish injuries. Later reports confirmed that he had over 20 stab wounds across his body, but this was only the very beginning. According to the investigation, Al had likely been brutally tortured by the killer leading up to his death. The details of the crime scene were so horrific that they were never fully released to the public. Whoever did this to Al spent hours upon hours inflicting pain before taking his life. This alone was enough to make it one of the most disturbing cases in Aurora's history. But the deeper investigators looked into it, the more unsettling it became. And at the center of it all was a mysterious man named Robert Cooper. His name first came up when talking to Al's girlfriend Linda, who was out of state at the time. She revealed that Al had told her about renting out his basement to a guy named Robert Cooper. She had actually seen the guy a few days earlier when Al was giving him a tour of the place. But as soon as Robert saw Linda, he left without even looking at her. He was likely trying to avoid leaving any witnesses. Fortunately, Linda was able to see enough of his face to help detectives put together a crude sketch. She also revealed that he had a cane and was walking with a limp. A quick search of Al's home revealed a document in his kitchen dustbin with all of Robert's information on it. But as it turned out, all of this was completely fake. Another factor that complicated the case was the sheer lack of a motive. Investigators initially assumed that it was a robbery gone wrong since Al's truck, phone, and wallet were missing. However, the truck was found just a couple of blocks from his home the very next day. And while the suspect did use Al's bank card, he only withdrew $1,000.
That's crazy, bro. People will really kill you and then take your information and use that as like money.
Below the amount of money Al had in his account. Pictures from the ATM camera showed him wearing a ski mask and gloves.
Like, why were they even like? I don't know. I mean, this is like a long time ago. It looks like. I know, like if you go to certain banks, they could just, like, you could request a teller. But you can also just draw by yourself. But I don't know why, if they had cameras, like if they see somebody with a ski mask on and gloves, like why they would
completely hide his identity. Robert had also given $750 in cash to Al just a day earlier for a security deposit and first month's rent. So committing such a horrific crime for the difference of $250 didn't make much sense. Investigators later concluded that withdrawing this money was likely his way of taunting the police by leaving clues that he knew would ultimately do nothing for the police. By this point, it was clear that investigators were dealing with a highly prepared killer who had taken every precaution to conceal his identity. Even when officers tracked down the phone he used to contact Al, it turned out to be a burner phone. Not only that, but Robert had bought it with—
That's so sickening. Like, people really, like, do all this, bro, just to get away with stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you literally took years to just plan this out so that you can get away with this, bro.
Cash from a local convenience store and waited 30 days to activate it, knowing that most stores erased
how cool people could be
old CCTV footage after a month. Analysis of his phone revealed that he had also contacted several other landlords before Al. He likely went after Al because he knew Al lived alone. However, talking to those other landlords complicated things further, since many of them described characteristics that were the complete opposite of Linda's account, like many claiming that he didn't have a cane and walked normally. Some also claimed that he was much younger than Linda had described. At the end of the day, investigators weren't able to find a single solid lead or motive pointing to Robert Cooper's real identity. They even found a drop of blood on the basement stairs, but the DNA sample didn't match any existing records, leaving the question of why Al-Kite was targeted and killed in such a horrific way as an unsolved mystery to this day. Human meat killer. On December 15, 1996, a man in Baltimore, Maryland walked into the local police station with a grim confession. According to this man, one of his friends had asked him to help dispose of a woman's remains. And while this sounded a bit absurd at first, officers decided to accompany him to the location. And to their surprise, the man wasn't lying. Deep inside a wooden pallet factory, police discovered the remains of 23-year-old Kimberly Lynn Spicer, who had been missing since November of that year. There was still a possibility that the man who went to the police was trying to frame his friend for a crime he committed. However, any doubt officers had in him vanished as soon as he named his friend, 41-year-old Joe Matheny. Those who knew Joe personally described him as kind
ice cream truck guy or something
and compassionate, but to the police, he couldn't have been more different. You see, Joe was actually arrested back in August 1995 for allegedly taking the lives of 2 homeless men. However, the case was thrown out in July 1996 due to insufficient evidence. More importantly, the police were already
Yeah, man, you
investigating
get away
Joe
with
for
a
an
lot of
incident
things
that
back
had
then.
occurred just a week earlier on December
That's a lot
8.
for you.
That night, a woman named Rita Kemper accused him of kidnapping and attempted murder, allegedly threatening her by saying, "I'm going to kill you and bury you in the woods with the other girls."
That's insane.
So, the police had every reason to suspect that Joe was responsible for Kimberly's death as well. They arrested him the same day and charged him with murder. But Joe's crimes would turn out to be far more horrific. While in custody, Joe confessed to taking the lives of more than 10 victims, including the 2 homeless men he was charged with earlier. He also showed zero remorse, stating that he killed because he, quote, enjoyed it. Further added, "I got a rush out of it, got a high out of it, call it what you want."
It's just so crazy to think about that, bro. Like, people could literally kill people and just say get excited. Like, you know what I'm saying?
And no real excuse why other than I like to do it.
Life,
that said, when
Just wanna
investigators
throw it away
went searching for the remains of
I
these
guess
victims,
whatever you
most of them
call
were
it.
missing from where Joe claimed they were.
I mean, I
And
guess y'all
while
get
this
it
was
for
never
something like-
confirmed in court, there was an extremely
RP to them, though. Press their film.
horrific explanation for those missing remains. Put simply, while behind bars,
Yo,
Joe
dude.
confessed to processing his victims' remains and feeding them to ordinary people back when he was operating a grilled meat stand.
Yeah, that's what I'm
He
saying
wrote,
too, bro.
"The human
Because it's like, I feel like nowadays with this fast food, like, spotlight, bro, they just be eating anything. You don't know what you be eating, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm not going to say in specific places, bro, but shit. If you know, you know, nigga. I don't know if y'all, because for me, like I said, with fast food, I be thinking, like, how they be making this food this fast, bro? Like, this shit gotta be, like, already, like, I don't know, bro. You gotta be mindful, man, what you be eating.
human body tastes very similar to pork. If you mix it together,
But you gotta realize, like you said, too, like, our body was made to eat other, like, things, though. You feel me? So it's like, I feel like our body would get used to eating, like, you know, people and shit. Because, you know, our ancestors and shit used to eat people and shit. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, you know, never mind, I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna say, but just know, like, I won't be surprised if we.
no one can tell the difference.
May have had that
So, the next time you're riding down the road and you
Man,
happen to
it's
see
so
an
different.
open pit beef stand that you've never seen before,
But that's
make
why
sure
you gotta watch what you be eating, though, man. For me, yeah, nah, I don't even want to eat no damn stuff from no damn. That's why I ain't used to get like stuff from food trucks and shit, but I don't even want to eat that no more, bro. I actually don't even want to eat any at all anymore.
think about this story before you take a bite of that sandwich. He stood trial multiple times in 1997
Like, we gotta literally sit there and watch and make sure that it's an actual animal, bro.
and 1998 and was initially given the death penalty.
we're
But
not
this
eating
decision was later
food.
overturned and he was resentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He remained in prison until his death on August 5th, 2017.
RP to him, bro. Versus from.
Heart attack caught on camera. Elaine Bruno started on YouTube with random
Heart attack caught on
vlogs,
camera.
skits, and lifestyle videos back in 2012. These videos didn't gain much attention, but he kept posting semi-regularly for the next couple of years,
I feel
unaware
that,
that one day he would record the worst incident of his life on camera. It happened somewhere near the end of May 2015. Elaine was recording
Why
another
is
one of his
everything happening in May,
videos
bro?
when suddenly he started feeling an uncomfortable pain around his chest and shoulders. What Elaine didn't know at the
Yeah,
time
bro.
was that he was having a heart attack, and it was getting worse as time went on.
That's what, like, one scary thing about living alone. Like, it's just so hard to get help if nobody's there. You know, like, not if nobody's there, but if nobody knows. Wait, hold on now. Is it like can he not get up because he's like, I don't know if he's like I don't know what type of video this is, bro. I don't know why he's in the bathtub like this. But is it like he can't get up because he's naked? That's why he keeps hesitating. I mean, if it's a YouTube video, he can edit it out. But I mean, I never seen nobody in the bathtub.
Soon he was struggling to breathe and was constantly rubbing his chest and shoulders to alleviate pain, but none of it was working. The pain kept getting worse and worse, resulting in him nearly passing out and drowning in his bathtub at one point.
Drowning is insane. Anything to get no help or nothing? That's why too, like I said, if you live alone, try not to live too far away from other people too, so it's not hard for the people like the police and stuff to get to you. Because you gotta be.
He eventually summoned enough strength to get out of the tub, only to nearly pass out on the bathroom floor seconds later. What made this situation even worse was that he was completely alone in the house.
That's what I'm
Left
saying.
alone, he would have more than likely passed
like
away
nobody wouldn't
before
even
anyone
know.
noticed.
That's what I
But in
said.
what was nothing short of a miracle, his roommate came home early that day and immediately called 911.
Hey, shout out that roommate,
Elaine
bro.
was
That's God right
rushed
there.
to the hospital where he managed to survive and is still posting
Praise
videos
the
to
Lord,
this
then.
day. However, while
Oh, then we good then. I would do. Just next time, if I'm saying, and I feel like just being in the bathtub is just so vulnerable. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so hard for you to, like, if you're actually having a heart attack, there's no help you can get from that, being in the bathroom. At least if you're outside, people might see you or, you know, like maybe see you through a window or something. But if you're in the bathtub, like, ain't nobody gonna know.
Elaine was able to
Unless
recover
somebody
after
does.
experiencing a heart attack,
But shout out him, though. You know what
nearly
I'm
20 million people lose this battle every year.
saying? 20 million?
And therein lies the true horror of heart attacks.
Yo, he's wild. Why he
1 minute you're living your life, maybe.
But yeah, RP all those people that died, though, all the 20 million, and many other people that died in general. But you know, prayers to their family, man.
Filming a video or laughing at a joke, and the next your heart stalls. You feel this heavy, crushing weight on your chest, pressing your lungs, and there is absolutely nothing you can do to get it off.
That, bro,
it's the result of your heart muscle literally suffocating because it's being starved of oxygen-rich blood. As the minutes tick by, the sensation radiates through the rest of your upper body. Your lungs feel heavy, and no matter how deep you gasp, the air feels thin and useless. But the pain isn't even the worst part. It's the sheer dread and the impending sense of doom that survivors often describe as the most terrifying part of their experience. Your brain knows you are about to die before your heart even stops. And unlike many other deadly conditions that you can predict or counteract, a heart attack can happen at any time, often without warning, even in people who are otherwise healthy. And while modern medicine is quite effective at reducing the lethality of heart attacks, there's never a full guarantee treatment will arrive in time.
You don't have to tell me all that, bro. Right?
Serial killer
I know you're trying to scare me and shit like that, bro, but you don't gotta be that specific, man, alright?
In early 2003, the staff at the Somerset Medical
What is in New Jersey, I think?
Center in Somerville, New Jersey, noticed a few
I remember seeing this when I used to live in Jersey, bro.
abnormalities with a couple of their patients, like a Catholic priest named Florian Gall who passed away completely out of nowhere. And when tested, staff found toxic levels of digoxin in his system, even though digoxin was never prescribed to him. Around the same time, another patient showed a sudden and unexplainable insulin spike and nearly lost their life. These and other similar incidents kickstarted an investigation, and nearly all of them linked back to the same man, 43-year-old Charles Cullen. The incidents weren't the exact same, but they all shared Charles as the common factor. In each case, the patient either mysteriously died or their condition became a lot worse after Charles spent a shift with them. This didn't make much sense at first. Charles had been a nurse for over 16 years and had a spotless record so far. However, the deeper investigators looked, the more suspicious his actions became. They found records of him requesting digoxin from the digital medicine dispensing machine and then canceling the request right after. But while the record never showed him taking the medicine out, doses of digoxin were still missing from the machine. There was simply too much circumstantial evidence against Charles for it to all be a massive coincidence. Unfortunately, none of this circumstantial evidence was solid enough to guarantee conviction. There was no CCTV footage or any other.
Like, if you can't trust a doctor, like, who can you really trust, bro? Honestly, because they're like the only person that can help you if you think about it, and they're also the only person that could also like easily from the injury, bro.
Direct proof of
they give you the wrong pill, even if it's by accident.
His crimes. The only option now was to get him to confess. Luckily, investigators were able to convince one of his friends, another nurse named Amy Lochran, to wear a wire and coax a confession out of him. This worked better than investigators could have guessed. She invited him to lunch on December 12, 2003, and after some persuasion, got him to admit to intentionally killing his patients. This was enough for officers to arrest him on the spot and bring him in for questioning. He tried to stay quiet at first, but eventually admitted to taking the lives of 29 different patients.
29. Yo, I ain't gonna lie, dog. Yeah, we gotta watch. Yeah, see, I don't even trust nobody now, bro. I mean, I never really did, but this little doctor purposely killed 29 people
during his time as a nurse. Though, according to some estimates, this number could be as high as 400. Charles,
yo, I ain't gonna lie, nigga. Yeah, 400, bro. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Just all I gotta say is RP to them, bro. RP to the people that passed away. Brothers, however many people it is, you know what I'm saying? First to their family. But yeah, you gotta just. That's why I don't really be liking to take pills and shit, cause I don't be knowing what they be doing. You know, you don't know what they be putting in that shit, man. At least if it's like a liquid, you can kind of like, I don't know, maybe taste it. You can spit it out or something. But bro, you taking pills, you don't know what you taking, bro. You feel me?
Would strategically choose night shifts with fewer prying eyes
And
and
it
opt
was
to
night
take care of
shifts.
victims who were less likely to survive. He would then either
Damn,
enter the
let's
code
look
for
at this.
some other medicine in the same drawer as digoxin, or cancel the request but then shake the machine open to steal the drug. He chose digoxin
But what
because
is
it messed with the
digoxin?
heart's
Like, what
rhythm in
is
high
that? Like, what does
doses,
it do?
resulting in the victim dying of a natural-looking cause. He also knew
They
that
probably just thought it was the
autopsies
normal
rarely
medicine.
tested for digoxin, reducing his risk of getting caught even further. However, the most disturbing part of the case is that his crimes were uncovered multiple times over the years. When the hospitals he worked at found out what he was doing, they didn't want to ruin their own reputation by launching a criminal investigation, so they simply fired him
Yeah,
instead.
y'all gotta. Wait, they didn't tell the police, but they fired him. I don't know. Y'all just gotta watch that, bro, because I feel like that's crazy to think they damn near like, even though they didn't necessarily cover him because they fired him, they still allowed him to do this and then wanted to fire him right there.
This allowed him to work at 10 different
But that's
hospitals
ego,
and
bro.
claim the lives
That's what I'm saying, bro. If they would have had the criminal investigation, they would have got him arrested before he got to all these other places. So they probably gonna get sued for that, bro.
of
If they
countless
haven't already.
victims. When asked why he did it, Charles claimed that he wanted to relieve people of their suffering, even though most of his victims were either in stable conditions or died painful deaths because of his actions.
Bro, what? That doesn't make sense. You want to relieve them by drugging.
Thankfully, he was caught in
Without them
2003. He stood trial in March 2006 and was sentenced to 18 consecutive life sentences, ensuring that he spends the rest of his life behind bars.
Yeah, I know. I prayers to their
The
family.
2019 escape
That's
room
crazy.
incident. On January 4, 2019, a group of 5 15-year-old girls in Poland got together to celebrate one of their birthdays. They had decided to spend the afternoon at a local escape
birthday
room.
parties?
Escape rooms, for those who don't know, are an interactive group activity. The premise is to
Yeah,
get locked
I
in a
know,
small
I just don't have enough patience for escape room. Let me be honest with you, dog.
themed room,
Now I'm
solve
gonna feel like, what's the word called? Like trapped? I don't know what that's called. What's it called? I don't know.
a series of
But it's
puzzles and find
like
the
a
key to
trivia or
escape
something. I
before
don't know
the
what it's
timer
called.
runs out. When done correctly, it's a largely
Hold on
harmless
now, man. What you doing, man?
activity with virtually
What you doing with that cross, my man?
no risk of injury.
You alright?
However, not every escape room is set up with safety in mind,
Well, actually, you might be trying. I don't know.
which was also the case for the escape room the girls chose for their celebration.
But,
It was hosted in an old residential building that was later converted into an escape room business without proper modification.
what?
In an old residential building that was
Oh,
later
the building?
converted into an escape room business without proper modifications. Mainly, the rooms lacked a proper fire exit. The only way out was through the front door, which was left locked until they
Yeah,
solved
that's
the
not
puzzle
safe.
to escape. Even
Damn. So they can only. So they have to solve. That's what I'm saying. Like claustrophobic, I think it's called. I won't be able to do this, bro. You mean to tell me there's only one door that I can get out, and I don't even look like. Is there any windows? It don't even look like there's any windows in here. Got this space right here. It's like a dungeon, bro. Only way you can get through out is by this door, and you have to unlock the puzzle to get out.
only way out was through the front door, which was left locked until they solved the puzzle to escape.
Oh, it's locked.
Even the window was boarded up for decoration,
saying, the
making it
window.
completely inaccessible.
even get out.
The entire building was also being heated with a gas heater powered by portable
Getting heated?
cylinders, with the door to the
Oh,
escape
yeah.
room located right next
Yeah,
to the
no.
heater. And while this
And they didn't have like no family members here with them or anything, because it says they were only 15 years old.
setup had worked without any issues for
Well, how'd they
dozens of
get here?
attempts before, the same
You
did
got
not
an Uber or
happen
something?
on the 4th of January. The girls arrived at the location around 4 p.m. and were locked inside the room not long after. At around 5 p.m., the only employee on duty noticed a whooshing
it's one
sound coming
employee?
from the heater. He tried to check for any leaks and
That's it?
fix them before things got out of hand. Unfortunately,
didn't
as soon
tell
as he
them or
moved the
anything?
cylinder, the leaking pipe caught fire and engulfed the entire
Caught
wall
fire?
immediately. He tried to reach the girl's door to unlock it, but the fire was already too intense. He suffered severe burns and was forced to retreat, cutting off the only evacuation route and leaving the girls entirely
And he
trapped.
just left them in there, didn't say anything.
Inside the room, the teenagers were likely unaware of the danger at first.
And they didn't even know, that's what I'm
But
saying.
soon, thick, toxic smoke began seeping through the cracks of the door. The temperature
And there's really
spiked
nothing
and
they can
turned the
do.
room into a literal
'Cause
furnace. The
They don't have no escape, bro. Literally.
girls were confined to a tiny, locked space and were entirely
And they said
dependent
the windows was boarded down. there's only one door. You have to unlock it. Nobody's even in there to unlock it because the other dude left. So it's like
on
this.
someone on the
There's
outside
nothing
to
they
let
can do
them
now.
out. Even if they had a way out, the thick smoke made it impossible to breathe, let alone
Man, look at
open
the
their
wall.
eyes and find their way out. All they could do now was
So even
wait
if
to
they
be
had a
rescued,
way out,
while
they
the chance
still
of them
couldn't get out.
experiencing an unimaginable death increased with every second. One of the girls managed to call her father during the chaos, but the only words that came out of her mouth were "Dad, fire," before the line cut off. By the time firefighters extinguished the blaze and forced their way into the room, it was already too late. All 5 teenagers passed away, turning a harmless birthday outing into an unimaginable tragedy.
I repeated that, man. Pretty sure something. That's why I just gotta watch, like, when y'all go to escape rooms and stuff like that, before you even, like, just in general, wherever you go anywhere, like, to celebrate anything, just make sure you're aware of everything you're around first before you get into this type of stuff, bro. Like, make sure there's escapes, make sure that, there's no sketchy people around,
Rabies.
all that type of stuff.
Few diseases in the world are more terrifying than rabies, mainly because once its symptoms appear, death is almost inevitable. However, that is far from the most disturbing aspect of the virus. The true horror of rabies lies in what it does to the human body before claiming a life. It starts with a bite from a stray dog, a raccoon, or even a minor scratch from a bat. Then, immediately after entering the body, the rabies virus starts traveling up the nervous system towards the brain. And until it reaches its target, the virus is almost invisible to the body. It doesn't trigger a massive immune response or cause immediate sickness. Even the original bite usually heals without any complications. This lack of immediate symptoms can deceive people into thinking that they're safe. By the time they realize they're infected, they're already too far gone. Because once the virus finally reaches the brain, it begins replicating itself quickly and starts spreading through the nervous system. And that's when the symptoms begin. Even then, it can start off fairly tame with symptoms like a low fever, a headache, and general fatigue, the same signs as the common flu. But before long, the virus begins actively destroying brain tissue, resulting in severe paranoia, confusion, and uncontrollable aggression. Victims become incredibly restless and begin suffering from insomnia and violent outbursts.
Wait, insomnia? Isn't that like sleeping? Like you can't sleep? What is insomnia? Yeah, like you can't sleep.
Becomes the most horrific symptom of the disease, hydrophobia. You see, the virus spreads through saliva, so it increases the production of saliva, and to ensure that this saliva stays in the mouth, so it increases hydrophobia. You see, the virus spreads through saliva, so it increases the production of saliva, and to ensure that this saliva stays in the mouth, it makes the host extremely hydrophobic. It causes severe, agonizing spasms in the throat and larynx. These spasms are so violent that they're triggered by the mere thought, sight, or sound of water. You need water to survive, but the second you try to take a sip or even swallow your own saliva, your throat muscles violently contract, inducing a sensation identical to suffocating. Worst of all, this state of panic and aggression only gets worse as the virus progresses, until the human body can't take it anymore and shuts down completely. Now, modern medicine does have a highly effective vaccine. If you receive a series of shots immediately after a suspected bite, your chances of survival are nearly perfect. But the vaccine only works if administered before the virus reaches your brain. If you wait and even a single minor symptom appears, the mortality rate jumps to virtually 100%. There is no cure at this point. There is no last-minute medical save, resulting in 70,000 people falling victim
God, though. I mean, God can save you.
To rabies every year.
So don't, like, if you end up having this, God forbid, you know what I'm saying, and they say you may not survive, just know that God got you, you know what I'm saying, and He can help you survive.
Because once the first headache starts, you are already dead.
Huh? The first headache?
Arby's walk-in freezer death. On the morning of May 11, 2023...
Bro, why is May, like, so common, bro?
63-year-old Nuyet Lee was opening for an Arby's located in New Iberia, Louisiana. She arrived at the location at around 9 a.m. to prep for business before the 10 a.m. opening. This was a part of her daily routine as the manager, and something she...
Arby's? I know, like, it was supposed to be like a new thing. I was about to have Arby's a couple days ago. There was like a chicken sandwich thing, had a cheese steak. I was thinking about it, bro. And you know they got the curly fries for me.
She had done hundreds of times before, and today was supposed to be no different. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Sometime after arriving at the location, Nuyet went inside the restaurant's massive walk-in freezer to retrieve some ingredients. But when she turned around to walk out, the door slammed shut, leaving her stuck in negative...
Yeah, I could never, like... Well, I mean, I used to, like, when I used to work where I used to work, there was a freezer and shit. But I was always scared that I'd get stuck in that motherfucker, man. Because it's like too like if someone's outside, they can lock the door and you'll be locked in it. Feel me?
10 degrees
So
Fahrenheit.
like God forbid someone having a bad day, or they just like think nobody's in there and they lock it, and you just stuck in there.
This was
But it
colder
wasn't
than
that
many
cold
parts of the
when
Antarctic, and unlike
yeah, no,
people
it
who
wasn't
live
that
in
cold in the
extremely
freezer.
frigid environments, she
10
wasn't
degrees
dressed
and
for the
shit. Yeah,
cold.
no.
It wasn't until 6 hours later that her own
6
son, who
hours.
also worked at the same restaurant, found her inside the freezer. She was frozen solid on the freezer's floor, curled up into a fetal position. Her hands were bloody from trying to pry her way out for what must have felt like hours before hypothermia
They
set
didn't
in
even
and
like
she
feed her
eventually
or
passed
nothing.
away. A later investigation of the freezer revealed that the emergency latch that's meant to open the door from the inside was broken. She had also been working as the manager of an Arby's in Houston, Texas for several years, but was assigned a temporary position at the Louisiana location in February. So there's a good chance she didn't even know about the malfunctioning latch. These industrial walk-in freezers also have extremely thick walls, so no one could hear her cries for help either, leaving her to die alone in the dark, cold room. Sadly, New York's case is only one of 60 similar cases that happen every
60.
year,
They happen
where
at
people
Dollar
get stuck
Tree?
inside a walk-in freezer, and by the time someone notices,
I
it's
ain't lie. I would just say if you ever go into a freezer, bro, make sure the door is right and stuff like that. But if you ever go in there, go in there with somebody, so that y'all can like call for help. I mean, I don't know if she maybe didn't have her phone, so she couldn't call nobody. She was in here. But just next
already
time,
too late. From the moment they
I
become
am like,
trapped until their final breath, people
go in
experience
there
what
with
can
somebody
only
or
be
something.
described as pure torture. It
But yeah, that
starts
is
with their
torture.
body quickly losing heat due to
Like
the extreme
freezing.
cold temperature. The frigid air
That's
makes it
fuck.
painful to breathe, and even the thin liquid layer on the eyes starts to freeze. This is followed by hypothermia, during which the body constricts blood vessels, raises the heart rate, and begins to shiver uncontrollably to generate heat. The lack of blood flow to the
Damn,
extremities
that's
can also
crazy thing. Shivering literally generates
lead to
heat.
frostbite on fingers
And you
and
can get
toes
that
as the
cold.
cells in those regions begin to die out. Near the final stages of hypothermia,
Is
the brain
this
starts
black?
to
I'm not
malfunction,
black.
causing hallucinations, delirium,
Goddamn,
and
no.
extreme
This is
dizziness.
live shit.
By this point, the chances of survival are nearly zero, as the person begins to lose their sense of self before eventually passing away.
Damn. RP to them if they.
The Gollum Cave Incident.
I can't really see.
On the morning of August 17, 2005, 5 students from Brigham Young University decided to explore a relatively unknown cave on the nearby Y Mountain in Utah. The small cave was called Gollum's Cave, but it also had a second name, as those who knew about it called it the Cave of Death. Confident in their knowledge of the cave's interior and their ability to navigate it, the 5 students decided to visit it anyway.
Yeah.
Blake Donner, Ariel Singer, Scott McDonald, and Jennifer Galbraith arrived at the cave's entrance at around 4:30 a.m. and made preparations to go in. The 5th friend, Joseph Ferguson, decided at the last second not to join them and stayed outside. The others started to make their way in, one after the other, and just a few minutes later vanished.
I mean, yeah, I would say just don't, before this even starts, I would say, like, the dude that didn't go in there, shout out to him from saying just don't ever feel like you're forced to do anything, bro.
Completely into the cave. An important thing to note about Gollum's Cave is that it was only 100 feet, or about 30 meters in length. So the trip to its end and back should have taken 20 to 30 minutes at most. But over an hour had passed, and none of the 4 had returned. Worried about their safety, Joseph dialed 911 and told them about the situation. And it wasn't long before police and rescue officers were there, thinking up the best way to reach the 4 who were inside. Because the primary section of the Gollum Cave ended with a small water-filled hole, which then led to an air pocket further inside the cave. The tunnel leading to the air pocket was too narrow to turn around, forcing anyone inside to reach the very end before returning, something the rescuers couldn't do with their equipment, like oxygen tanks. So instead of going in and possibly getting stuck, they decided to use an air pump to fill the cave with fresh air while also removing water. This not only supplied those stuck inside with fresh air, but also made the rescue mission much easier. What none of the rescuers knew was that it was already too late. Unfortunately, by the time rescuers reached the entrance to the underwater section, all 4 students were already dead. The question now was how. After removing the remains from the cave, rescuers returned to the air pocket at the very end to test the air quality. As they had feared, oxygen levels were critically low inside the air pocket. They weren't bad enough to prevent the 4 from breathing completely, but it was a big enough difference to impair their reasoning. This also made it difficult to hold their breath while trying to return, causing all 4 to become trapped in the short underwater section and drown before help could arrive. Asiana Airlines Flight 214 disaster. On the 6th of July 2013, Asiana Airlines Flight 214 was set to arrive at the San Francisco International Airport at around 11:30 a.m. The Boeing 777 plane had taken off from the Incheon International Airport near Seoul, South Korea about 10 hours earlier. And other than a 30-minute delay due to weather, the flight had gone exactly as planned. But this would change as they were about to land. As the plane approached the runway, it was 2,000 feet lower than it should have been. By the time the pilots realized their mistake, the plane was already too close to the ground. They tried to course correct at the last second, but that only made things worse. The plane crashed into the sea wall, losing its tail and left engine in the process. The main body of the plane slid across the runway at extreme speeds before catching fire due to the jet fuel that was now spilling everywhere. Fortunately, with the crash happening near the airport, rescue workers were able to reach the scene in seconds. Of the 307 people on board, 187 were injured by the impact or the fire, and 3 lost their lives. However, among everyone on that plane, no one suffered a fate more tragic than 16-year-old Ye Mengyan. Ye wasn't wearing her seatbelt when the crash happened, resulting in her getting ejected.
It's so crazy to think you have to wear a seatbelt on the airplane, bro. But yeah, isn't that like the safety of the like the people that was on the plane, like because they didn't tell them they didn't check, because they're only supposed to check and make sure you got a seatbelt on
the runway. She was severely injured, but according to the autopsy reports, she was still alive. She had survived such a violent event against all odds.
Damn.
There was a strong chance of her pulling through and recovering if she had received immediate medical attention. It's unclear if she was conscious at the time, but if she was, seeing rescuers arrive just seconds after the crash would have been a tremendous relief. However, the very people meant to save her life would end up taking it instead. Not long after the crash, Ye was tragically run over by 2 separate fire trucks as they maneuvered around the wreckage to extinguish the fires. Footage from the incident showed a firefighter directing the trucks away from Ye. Unfortunately, in the chaos of the rescue, no one thought to check her vitals and assumed that she had already passed away.
Whoa, stop. There's a body right...
Damn.
There's a body right there, right in front of you.
This led to rescuers ignoring her and focusing on the fire and the other victims. One of the fire trucks also ended up covering her with fire-resistant foam, making her even harder to spot, which ultimately led to 2 different drivers failing to see her on the ground and running her over, removing any chance she had of surviving the crash.
RP to her, bro. Press her phone. You finna do a bird for these people, man. I'm itching and jump, boy. Alright. Lord, just thank you for today. Just help all these families be able to recover. And just RP to all these people that... Hey! Lord, just help all these people be able to recover. And RP to their people that passed away. Help their families be able to recover from this. And just help them be able to allow others to make better decisions when it comes to these certain specific areas and just in general. Just help everybody get the justice they deserve, and just help everybody that was on the bad side of things in this, that did the hurt and did the crime to people, that they can change their life and turn to you before it's too late. But we love you, Lord. We're nothing without you. Keep your sound dreams. For me it's you too, but forever watching this wherever their dreams are, and help us be able to give you all the glory and never forget you. We love you, Lord. We're nothing without you. You saw my name, love you. You saw my name. Amen. I love y'all, man. Jesus loves y'all. Rest of these families and everybody that passed away, RPDR. One more video today. Peace out.